Next, we are going to look at the Lasso tool and the Selective Color adjustment layer. The shortcut for the Lasso tool is L, and we have three different versions of the Lasso tool. So we have the Lasso tool, Polygonal Lasso Tool, and Magnetic Lasso Tool. The regular lasso works by drawing freehand. So you click, hold, and drag around the area that you want to select. So it's quite tricky to use. I find the polygonal lasso to be much more useful. So you click and then you click another point and you trace around the object like this. If you make a mistake, you can press the backspace or the delete key to go back like this. And then to close your selection, you double click to connect with your first point. The magnetic lasso tool, again, tries to find, if you trace around your object, it's going to draw the dots, but sometimes it may not be completely accurate. So if you have very high contrast, for example, here, the contrast is very high between the door and the wall. So the magnetic tool, the magnetic lasso is working pretty well. It still can make mistakes sometimes. So out of the three, I would say that the polygonal lasso is my favorite. If you use the regular lasso and you press and hold the Option key, you will temporarily switch to the polygonal lasso. So let me try to select this door with the polygonal lasso tool, like this. Okay, now I can double click to select, and I can also add. I think I made a mistake here, so I can add to this selection. Let's say like this. Double click. Okay, and then I go to the adjustments and selective color. So what this allows me to do now is to adjust the red. So if I go into science, I can make this a little bit more red or less red or more cyan or blue. And then I can make this darker or brighter. Like this. I can introduce more yellow or less yellow, more blue. Like this. I can do the same thing for the steps, for example. So if I use the lasso, the polygonal lasso, I'm going to make a rough adjustment like this, which I'm going to feather. So the feathering is going to give a very soft edge to this selection. So that's why it doesn't have to be perfect, like this. Double click. And then I can go Shift F6 and feather this by, let's say, 50 pixels. Click OK. Then go to the adjustments again and make a new selective color adjustment layer. And then I can go into neutrals or blacks. Let me try the neutrals. And then notice that we also have two options here, relative and absolute. So what this means, for example, if I adjust the cyan, I can, for example, add 10% or 33% or take away 10%. So let's say that the original amount of cyan that I had was 10 units. If I use the relative mode, then if I add 10% here, that means that I'm going to add 10% of the original 10 units that I had, or the original, let's say 10% that I had. So I'm going to add up with 11%. If I select the absolute, then I'm going to add another 10% to the 10% that I already had. Okay, so this way, maybe I can just make the stairs a little bit warmer, like this. So looking at the whole image, this is the before and after. Okay, we can do something similar in this image. So again, I'm going to use the polygonal lasso, like this. So if you have straight lines, like in this image, this tool works really well, like that. Again, I'm going to feather it, Shift F6, 50 pixels is fine. And then I can go to adjustments again, selective color, and again I will go into neutrals. And then make this a little bit more red. And a little bit more yellow. So this looks more like sunlight. Like this. And if I tweak the blacks, I can darken or lighten this area. Like this. And also if we look at this image, if I use the Polygonal Lasso Tool to make a very rough adjustment, like this, I'm going to cut through the bridge. I want to select the sky, but I'm going to cut through the bridge and through the buildings. So my selection is going to be very quick and rough, like this. So I made this super fast. But now I'm going to feather this by a very large amount, like 500 pixels. So if I now make an adjustment layer, for example, curves, like this, even though my selection was not super precise, you can't really see it. It blends in because the feathering was high.